Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the We Have Issues podcast. Today, we will be having a nice holiday grab bag for you of a variety of topics that you may discuss with your family or not discuss, depending on how much you like them or not. Without further ado, I'm Chris.
I'm Carvel.
I'm Matt.
And we're going to go with our first issue, which is a positive one, right? Hey, guys, guess what I read? I read that Thanksgiving dinner will be cheaper this year. In fact, it'll be 5% cheaper, which I know is like pennies on the dollar, but at least it's some sort of progress, right? Instead of $55 or instead of $58, it's going to be $55 to have a nice Thanksgiving meal for your family.
Almost the savings of Joe Biden's July 4th hot dogs.
I don't know about you guys, but Thanksgiving's, kind of a nice time. I don't tend to shy away from political discussion at my family table. My family's actually quite respectful for that. I don't go too far into it, but, it's nice to hear where everyone's standing. What's your experiences over at Thanksgiving?
So Thanksgiving, it's kind of definitely one of those times where we're not strapped with money because everybody's, in my family at least, or in my wife's family, we're bringing one dish over.
Oh.
So when we do one dish, everybody shares. There's community, less food that you have to buy, less things you have to prepare. So, in my family, we really never seen the price, but at the same time, I've never been the one that was responsible for the turkey. So I guess that's not fair to say. But this year, I'm having two Thanksgiving. One Thanksgiving with my wife and one Thanksgiving with my mother and sisters. And the Thanksgiving with my mother and sisters, we will be having Chinese food. So as you could probably know and guess, Chinese food is one of those foods that never changes during inflation. It's always the same. It's been the same since I remember. So
Thanksgiving's kind of mutated over the years. So growing up, we lived next to my dad's parents, my grandparents on that side. We lived across the street from them, and then we had the property that the family businesses, that infrastructure was on. And so we always had Thanksgiving over there, and my grandparents had a pretty small house, and my dad's sister, aunt and uncle, and their kids, they would come up to visit with us and eat with us. And my dad and my sister always kind of had like this class war going on, and so did my grandparents with them. And so, it was always, there was politics discussed for sure, but it got pretty heated and intense. My aunt she thought she was kind of higher society, and so she kind of went more the conservative, leaned more toward that. It wasn't really until Obama that there was actually starting to be some agreement, and then when Trump came into the picture, disagreement popped back up again between everybody. But once I moved off and grandparents started getting in bad shape, we started doing more Thanksgiving at my mom's sister's house. My uncle, he's got a real nice place, and it was big and spacious and everybody could fit in. But even there, politics really wasn't discussed around that table, but it was a little bit weird because there's Mormons on that side of the family. So it was interesting they're really politically kind of neutral. They don't really want to talk about it, but I remember like my cousin's wife, I'd said something about gay people one time, and she you could tell she wanted to shut the conversation down in a polite way. Of course, they're Mormons. They're ultra polite, but yeah, that's kind of how it was. And Thanksgiving usually was kind of traditional, turkey, ham, mashed potatoes. One year my uncle made this god awful gumbo, and people still talk about that shit to this day. Like, why did he make that? And I mean, we're from Louisiana, but I was like,
those are the best
God,
stories,
dude. It was like, Jesus Christ, man. And but yeah, and then my mom and aunt, they get the Black Friday papers and go out and do that crap. So
speaking of family that doesn't get along for the holidays, we see that Trump and Mamdani, fellow New Yorkers, they got to meet up with each other in the White House just a couple of weeks after Trump maybe not threatened to deport him, right? Did I misremember that?
No, that's right.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
So, but apparently they're like BFFs now, right? Matt, you kind of brought this up to me.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw a meme earlier. It was Mamdani and Trump, and they both had on like the black blazer with the red turtleneck underneath it, and somebody compared it to when Michael Scott and Ryan on The Office when Michael started copying Ryan. I don't know which way it goes between Trump and Mamdani, who's Ryan and who's Michael Scott, but
I know which way I'd rather it go.
Yeah, Trump's probably more the Michael Scott, but yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. But I think this is you get these really good opportunities, these really good showings every once in a while. I think this is one of them because everybody, has been saying we need to bring it back to the center. There's this big divide between the left and the right, and from, everything that I saw, the interview, kind of the post media stuff, it seems like Trump and Mamdani actually had a decent conversation. They kind of took a couple shots at each other, but it seemed like it was lighthearted. And just the fact that Trump said, hey, he's a fellow New Yorker and he wants to do whatever he can to make New York great again. It seems like Trump probably listened to at least listen to some of his ideas and his concerns about stuff.
Is this how Trump accidentally gets us Medicare for all to own the libs?
Well, I mean, and this is what people think of Trump so one-dimensionally. Like, yeah, Trump is bombastic and he doesn't speak well and he stirs up crap. That's how he is. But it's kind of like the Bill Maher situation. Bill was completely, anti-Trump, hated him, went to the dinner with him, and he's like, this isn't the same guy you see on TV. Seems to be two sides of Trump. There's out in media saying wild and wacky things, and, that's how he ran with record low numbers as far as what he paid for his advertising in his campaign. And then there is like behind the scenes Trump, where he actually like sits down and has a civil conversation. So I don't know. I think it was a good moment. I think it really helped because the tensions were so high in the nation. Everybody was concerned about Mamdani, being in New York, but it seems like that might cool people off. I don't know.
I think their relationship is probably got to be cordial right now, and it's in a sense that Trump, when he says things, he does it also to rile up a lot of people on his side, and in doing that, you get a lot of people who may or may not vote for him. So I think it was in the beginning, I think it was a lot of just Trump tact is like, hey, we don't want to vote for this guy. This guy's going to get deported. Mm-hmm. This guy is not somebody we want. But, in the end of it all, Trump is like, okay, this is what the people accepted. This is what we're dealing with. And we got to be cordial. There's no point of, me going back and forth with him because I'm not going to deport him really. Because if you deport him, then, you're going to get even more people from the right side saying like, hey, not only is something wrong with this administration, we got to get rid of it.
They're already saying that, Carvel.
Yeah, they're already saying that, but you don't want more people saying that, And so I think Trump knows that. And that's definitely something that, like Matt mentioned, it's a lot of it's for TV before what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. Mamdani, the same as him as well, and stuff when he was talking about taxing all the rich white people. I mean, obviously that was just so ridiculous that he said that. But in the same token, you can't do that. How do you do that, unless you get everybody else on board and you figure out a tactic on how to do it. And, it's a lot of it, you say it so that people can give them ear candy, right? And that's just it's kind of how politics is working these days. Not saying that it's right, but it's just what's going on.
Well, I mean, through districts is probably how they were going to do the taxation thing, and target districts, carve them up so that there are majority white districts and majority white neighborhoods. But that could be a slippery slope. I remember we worked in there's two really nice neighborhoods. Like when we were working there, I was like, this is where all the Middle Eastern people live, because I was like, and this is right next to the rich white neighborhoods. And so I don't know, man, got to be careful with that, Mamdani. Might tax some gas station owners or something, man.
I think that this meetup shows kind of just how united the Democrats and the Republicans are, and even the Democrat socialists are with the Republicans. They're all in bed with each other. Mamdani and Trump, they're both New Yorkers. They have power. They probably travel in the same circles. They probably know some of the same people that, liaison between the two that arranged this meetup. And Trump has a vested interest in New York City, since that's his home city. And he said that, we're going to get to this a little bit later, spoiler alert, but he said that Trump has no interest in sending ICE to New York City or the National Guard to New York City, and mess things up there, because he knows how destructive it is. And I think that just shows, I'll get more into this later, but I think that just goes to show how destructive those sorts of policies are to the cities, that Trump does not want to subject New York to that kind of situation.
Who do you think bench presses more, Trump or Mamdani?
Oh, Mamdani, easy. Trump is like a pudgy couch potato. What are you talking about?
I don't know, man.
Trump is
if he
probably
tried to
stronger than most people
anything,
think.
he'd just shit himself.
Trump, I would definitely say that definitely back in his day, Trump probably could scrap.
Not with those ankle spurs, he didn't.
No, I don't know, man. Like even back in the day, Trump looks like he never went to a gym. I don't know,
Trump's
man.
a Pillsbury Doughboy.
You gotta be. I mean, he's tall. He has that reach and stuff.
Yeah, you might be right.
He seems. He loves competition, fighting and stuff, and he has a mouth on him. Like
it's not a debate contest, Carvel.
No, not a debate contest, but usually the people with the mouth on them, they get socked in the mouth,
That's right. He does have the build, like, man, you see the power lifters when they go, like, they bring the bar down and poof off that stomach.
I mean, like, I could imagine, like, he probably went to a school with a bunch of rich kids, and he probably got at least a couple.
No.
Yeah. He probably
it was a small $1 million loan.
I imagine when he was in middle school, they weren't talking about suing each other. He probably got smacked in the mouth at least. Well, both of you guys are like,
going from more positive meetups in politics, now we transition to a more negative, I guess, depends on your perspective, political development with Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced her resignation. What are your guys' thoughts on this? We just mentioned her last episode quite a bit. So
I definitely do not like the idea of her resigning. I think that she was a voice in the Conservative Party that was needed. And when I say she was needed, she spoke up a lot about, or at least her colleagues, right? Me personally, I think that it's really dangerous if we don't allow women a voice in a particular area of politics that is needed. And for sure, 100%, I think the Conservative Party needs a conservative woman, a good conservative woman in the party that, could speak on behalf of conservative women. And
you don't think that there's not other conservative women to take on?
There are, but how I viewed her, she was a leader. She was someone that, like everybody knows, she was a household name. And on top of that, we saw how she was just leading the whole fight, or at least in my opinion, leading the whole fight with what is going on, with the whole Epstein files and the women getting their rights, and she was contesting Trump. She was contesting a lot of her Republican colleagues, saying, hey, guys, this isn't right. And one of the most dangerous things I see in politics is the people who stand up for righteousness. And I'm not saying that she was a person of righteousness, and I'm not saying she's a person of unrighteousness. I'm not saying any of that. But somebody who is standing up for what is right, it sucks when those people start to leave offices, because they get replaced by people who's willing to fall in line with whatever leadership tells them to do or say or whatever it may be. And that gets dangerous because we get people in offices that shouldn't be there. And, good people are resigning because they're saying, this is too corrupt for me. I got to step out. And really what should be happening is those people should be saying, this is really corrupt. I have to change it. And I have to stay. I have to see it through. So I feel like this is just something, not just her. We see a lot happening in politics where good people are stepping out.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say. There's so much that could have went on. Who knows? I don't know if she just got tired of it and, just tired of the bickering and the fighting and nothing changing, and she just bowed out. I don't know if she just she's been in politics since, 21, 22? So she's, she's been there long enough to get a lay of the land, and maybe she just didn't like what she got a taste of for it. I don't know. It does suck. She seems more level-headed, seemed more like a down-to-earth representative, like you're saying, Carvel. Seemed like more of the everyman's type of person, but who knows? She has flip-flopped on a lot. I watched a video the other day that kind of went back to some of her early positions and positions now, and that's not saying you can't change your mind. You can't, become privy to new information that changes your outlook, but a lot of these things were like fundamental type things that shouldn't change that drastically that quickly. So I don't know. And it was this whole Epstein thing, like, did that spook her? Is there somebody working on her behind the scenes? Her kind of resignation video, I just got the general feeling that she was just tired of it and just over it. She's wealthy. What is she doing this? What does she need to do this for? So, wish her the best, I guess. But it does suck. Like Carvel said, we've lost, somebody who was a firebrand and was a good outspoken voice and, did put people to the fire on the floor.
I think that you are doing a disservice to your constituents by resigning. For better or worse, they elected you to serve out a term. And if you did not think that you could handle the job, you should not have ran in the first place. If you did not want that smoke, you should not have started the fire. And she started that fire, and it got out of control for her, I guess. Now, she did say that she is worried. One of the things she was worried about were, receiving death threats and receiving all sorts of things, not just against her, but also her family. And I can see where that would give you pause. Especially with political extremism that we've seen in this country and how worrisome that can be for some people. You can't really fault her for that. I might disagree with it. I wouldn't handle it that way. I think that I think that she would not have lasted through a primary challenge. Her district is heavy MAGA country. That's why she got elected kind of in the first place. And I do think a lot of this Epstein stuff has something to do with it. I mean, look at her husband. Her husband, he's involved in like is it the Fed or the SEC or something like that? I think he's a big Wall Street kind of guy. He's got way more bigger connections than she does. So maybe the smoke was coming towards him and not her more so. And that's why she needed to resign.
Could be. It seemed like they got, a little bit richer once they got in there. I know, she's kind of backed off on the immigration thing, and they got a construction company. Just saying.
Yeah, that seems to be,
Also, apparently her resignation comes like 2 days after her like pension benefits vest and stuff like that. So that's pretty convenient timing as well. I mean, if you're gonna quit your job, you might as well do it after you got your bonus, right? But
yeah. Timing's always convenient for these people on either side. I don't know, man. Maybe she thought that she was going to move up quicker than she did. And I mean, I even heard at one point somebody had mentioned she was kind of trying to position herself as a VP candidate, and I was like, that's a little bit overzealous.
She's way too controversial to be a VP candidate.
Well,
I mean, she might
that could play in her favor. I think she's still too fresh in there for that to be the political aspiration.
I think her peak would have been maybe in the Senate. She could have maybe jumped into a Senate seat in Georgia, but I don't know otherwise.
I mean,
yeah.
She could help somebody carry Georgia though, especially if the.
I don't know, Carvel, because she's toxic. She's toxic now.
Yeah.
She's toxic.
I don't know,
MAGA.
man. Like
MAGA runs the Republican Party, and I mean, unless she completely does a 180 and goes into the Democrat talking points, they're not going to accept her either. So she's kind of between a rock and a hard place. She's going to have to either wander out in the wilderness for a while before she returns to the fold. Maybe politics have shifted by then, but I like Trump said, he wishes her well, but thinks she should go away for a while. That tells me
she did promise to read Epstein file names, and then all this happened. So I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see where that comes off. But
maybe there were no names, and she was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna be embarrassed."
Well,
God, wouldn't that be a thing if there were no names in the Epstein files? Would not that be a thing?
Well, you know my position on it. Like, it's not going like, oh, here's a spreadsheet of the perverts.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of controversial figures and, stupid things going on in Congress, Chuck Schumer has just recently, in the last couple of days, proposed a resolution in the Senate to condemn the terrible platform of Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
It's all silly, man. I mean, I like Tucker. I've watched Tucker for a long time, and there's been things that I've disagreed with him on, and I think I agree with him now more than ever. He's starting to sound a little socialist, actually. He kind of goes over and is like,
I think Tucker Carlson, I don't think he's starting to sound socialist. I think Tucker Carlson is starting to sound a lot like FDR. And the one thing FDR was FDR was put into power to block the socialists because he wanted to work within the systems. He recognized that there was this undercurrent of socialist thought that was welling up in the country, and he knew if you didn't hit the release valve, that pressure would blow this country to smithereens. And I think Tucker Carlson is recognizing that as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what he said in that video I sent you guys the other day where he's talking about the housing and stuff. So, I mean, I'm starting to like Tucker more than more, other than he who was it? I think it was Steven Crowder said he dresses like a fly fisherman now. So that's a little weird, but it looked like a episode like what was that with Tim Allen, Outdoor Man or whatever. But anyway, so but with Fuentes, I don't know, man. Like I'm not a big fan. I'd never even really paid attention to him until all this the Charlie Kirk thing happened, and I started watching some of his stuff, and he's like Carville says, he speaks really well, and there's some things that he's got really good points on. So he's definitely dangerous in that regard because he is attractive. His message is attractive. How he delivers it is attractive. But then he's got controversial things. There's some hateful things. There's hard truths that he does say, but does it in a not so concerned with vanity.
You can say racist.
Well, yeah, definitely racist.
You can say sexist.
Well, there are things that he says that are clearly racist and sexist, and then there are other things that, like I said, they're just inconvenient truths nobody wants to talk about. But you've got to handle that with a little bit more aplomb when you go into those than he does, and perhaps that's part of his appeal. But to outright condemn him, I mean, before the guy was even popular, they completely deplatformed him, and you can't do that. I mean, it's like like me, I read all of Malcolm X's literature and stuff, and what kind of world would it be if you couldn't go right now and research figures like that? And Fuentes is to me, he's the same. As far as I know, there's not been anything, no violence that he's caused. There's never been an insurrection on behalf of Nick Fuentes. There's never been, some kind of public lynching on behalf of Fuentes. So, to completely silence him and to have to go in and use the weight of the government to condemn him, I just think it's overboard. I think it's just way too far.
I'm not a Zionist in any sort, and I'm not one that will condemn or.
I don't know. You're eating Chinese food on holidays.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I feel that is really dangerous with this guy is that he gives us a lot of great ear candy. He gives a lot of he's amazing to listen to. And, the fact that he talks about, blacks being in prison and stuff should be grounds of, me saying, okay, that's it. I don't want to talk to this guy, I don't want to hear this guy, ban him from everything and stuff. And I feel that this is the Frankenstein that the Republican Party, or MAGA, I should say, more sure MAGA, created. And this is... It's really funny. It's a full circle, right? Because when I looked at Ben Shapiro when he was so popular 10 years ago, he was the movement for the conservative party, but a lot of the platform that he stood on was talking about things that were going wrong in the black community, things that were going wrong with liberals, things that were going wrong with, just all these different communities and stuff. And people rallied and people loved that. And people were like, yeah, man, this guy, yeah. Now, here's the issue. When Nick Fuentes becomes popular and he says the exact same thing but against you, now it's an issue. Whoa, Ben Shapiro, weren't you saying this about every other group, but now when they said against you, it's a problem? Now here's the thing, right? The thing about it is that those people that were listening to Ben Shapiro, they're now listening to Nick Fuentes because he's saying a lot of the same things, but he's touching points that we are dealing with today. And people are loving it. And then when people hear this thing that they might be like, I'm on the fence about, I don't know how to feel about this, but he's guiding them in such a way that it's like, hey, no, guys, this is a problem. That's something that we have to be very careful in our culture because he has power. This is where it gets very dangerous. So I actually love Jewish people. I have a bunch of friends, and I can be critical of what they do. But what I won't do is I won't bash Jewish people. I won't say they're bad. I won't say they're hypocrites or liars or anything like that. No, they're people, they're human beings. I love them just as much as I love, any other nationality. That's just how it is. But in our society, we're walking around as if it's okay for people to just talk, and you can become really big in these social media platforms, and when you become really big, you start to deceive people, especially when you talk about, oh, I'm a Christian, and Christians ought to think like this, because yes, we do see this in society, right? We do see culture problems in society. Yes, we do. But the answer is not to push hate to one another. That's not the answer, right? The answer is to find our cultural differences, come together, and say, hey, let me help you up, my brother, or let's figure this out together. And that's just not what's happening. And I feel like Ben Shapiro, he helped create this beast. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why he's complaining so much, because he was, he's one of the founders of, this whole free speech, say what I want to, and discriminate against groups.
I will say that I think it's a little bit disingenuous putting Tucker Carlson in with Nick Fuentes as if they are equivalent. Nick Fuentes is a racist little goblin as far as I'm concerned, and Tucker Carlson is actually a reasonable individual. And I don't think Chuck Schumer likes the harsh truths that people sometimes say. And this government, in a very worrisome way, tends to lean toward censorship immediately, which is not something that should be condoned in a free society, I don't believe. But regardless, I think this is a really silly performative thing to be presenting to Congress, and honestly, a lot more seems to have gone into this than the Epstein files, so take for that what you will. And speaking of silly things, our next topic, apparently Miss Candace Owens made an interesting tweet this week saying that the French president has sent hit squads out against her, and she wants everyone to know the truth, just in case. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but I since she travels in that Nick Fuentes crowd, I found this interesting, and I kind of find her beef with the French president a little ridiculous. But still, she reaches out to a lot of people. She is very well beloved with a lot of people for her journalism, let's say. So what do you guys think on this?
I don't know. I don't, like I mentioned earlier, guys, Candace Owens, she just has a lot of she's popular right now. She's really
very
popular. And, very popular right now. But not all for the conspiracies, man. Like, I can see things happening, and if they are happening, but if this is something that's real, and somebody's trying to assassinate the French president, for me, it's going to be like the boy who cried wolf, honestly. I'm going to just be like, oh, yeah, okay, well, sure. What if it actually happens? I'm like, wow, like it actually happened, like one of these conspiracies was actually really true. And, I don't know, I'm not going to look too much into like a lot of the things that she says, because it's just, it becomes a lot. But, a lot of people these days, they love conspiracies. And a lot of these people, I think though, too, she's still dealing with Charlie Kirk's death. And these people, these social media icons, they deal with a lot of death threats too. So that's definitely something that, I'm sure she's got her fair share of some. But the French president, like, why?
So it was, I think I've told you guys the story before. Like, Candace had just hit the scene. I started listening to her, And she was very frigid, very shrill. She was kind of like AOC, very off-putting. So for a while, I didn't F with Candace at all. I was just like, I don't like that. I don't want to hear it. But now I love listening to Candace, and I like that she thinks and she has that conspiracy kind of mindset, because conspiracies have always existed. I mean, David sending somebody off to war so he could, get with Bathsheba. I mean, it's just how the world works. And it's not all got to be reptilians and lizard people and things like that. But when you think about, there's just a handful of people that control, billions, trillions of dollars, entire economies, legions of armies. There's going to be conspiracies everywhere. And so I applaud Candace for going in there and looking at this stuff and researching it. Now, I will say Candace is bad about getting information and dumping it immediately. I think she tries to vet it, but she's a little bit quick on the draw, and that might just be, I know this space, it's whoever gets to it first, and so you can't really afford to sit on something for a long period of time. But I like Candace, man. I like how she thinks. I like that she goes after people, and I like that she's very much like me. She speaks her mind and really doesn't care what people think about it. So,
speaking of those conspiracies, so this is something that we heard about earlier in the week, and this is something we alluded to a little bit earlier in the episode. Was we had heard that there was an ICE operation that was going to be taking place during the holiday season. And I found a few articles here and there about it. Presumably, to give context, this was going to be called, either officially or unofficially, Operation White Christmas, and was going to involve ICE operatives entering into Spanish-speaking churches to raid them for individuals from Thanksgiving until Christmas. Obviously, when I initially heard the reports, I saw some of the articles. I was, had a lot of righteous indignation at this. This is absolutely a ridiculous concept. It is against all Christian principles of governance. Just a terrible thing all in all. But as things moved up more and more, I didn't really see any sort of hard evidence other than that. Apparently, from what I understand, this information got out through a signal leak, which isn't surprising. Hegseth just can't stop adding journalists into his private messages and shit posting forums he enters into. But I haven't seen anything since. There is National Guard, there is ICE in cities like Charlotte and Chicago. Heavily Hispanic areas have been being targeted. But for the last 6 months or so, they've already been entering churches. This isn't anything new. It just hasn't been given a focus. Did you guys come to the same conclusion that I did, that this is likely not a real thing and not something that is so outrageous? Or that it has become almost banal in that it is happening, it has been happening, and no one just has been paying attention?
I kind of feel that way, Chris. My big question would be, who leaked it? What's the goal behind it? Because you could say that ICE, the Republicans, MAGA, whoever on that side of the fence, released this just to stir up fear, to run, Hispanic people out of churches. That could be their game. You could say the Democrats did this to stir up their base and, piss people off, toward ICE and toward conservatives. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen enough evidence for it yet, other than people whispering about it. It would be chaos and turmoil. If you think about, which we have a pretty good sized church, I guess, if you were to combine our two services, the Hispanic and the English service, but some of these churches are huge, and they have multiple services. And first of all, ICE getting in would be a problem, because most of these churches now have security at the doors, and you go in and you start trying to round people up with loud music, lights flashing, it's dark in there, everything. I couldn't see this being any kind of operation that would be, even if they tried to pull it off, it would not be successful in any meaningful way. I think it'd be more trouble than it'd be worth.
One thing I want to bring up is in sort of my circles, we're particularly sensitive about this, but this is perceived as one of those anti-papist, waspy attacks focused towards Catholics because recently the Pope and the U.S. Conference of Bishops has been very forthright in their opposition to this administration's immigration policy, and they've really gone hardline against Trump and Vance, who is himself a practicing Catholic, in saying how their policies are really detrimental. And I feel that this sort of attack, my personal conspiracy theory, the conspiracy theory of the circles I run in, is this is directly targeted towards Catholics and Catholic churches and Catholic Hispanics to get them to not attend services during the holiday season, during one of the biggest celebrations of the Christian year. Do you feel like that might have some weight to it, or do you think that's just...
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's something that we're not quite understanding right now, especially when Christians are looking at this, is that this is putting a lot of fear in people's hearts. And when I mention fear, I'm talking about we don't have as many people going out to, let's say, the Spanish community or whichever community of Hispanic descent. They're not going out evangelizing. They're not going out talking to the people as much. And those who are evangelizing, who might be of whatever descent, they might be legal. They might be afraid to go out themselves just because they don't want to be detained. And this is something that, we see that's happening. That people, pastors are telling their congregation, like, hey, maybe we won't have service. Maybe, Thanksgiving.
It's terrible.
It's happening. It's terrible, but it's happening. And they're mentioning, hey, how about we don't have service, because what we don't want is, we don't want ICE to be coming in here and taking a lot of people away. And pastors are also telling them, hey, let's keep a low profile. Let's not do this. This is actually happening. It's happening. There's a pastor in Georgia who's been telling his congregation this. Hey, you guys, ICE came in and they asked me to give all the names of everybody in my congregation.
Jesus.
And I gave it to them. However, I don't know what this means. So if you are illegal, or even if you are legal but you're afraid of being detained, just don't come to church. And that's a reality that we're seeing right now playing out. It's the whole fear of it all. Now, will it happen? Will it won't happen? I don't know. But at the mass scale that we see and we're reading about, right? We don't know how much of it's going to be happening, but we know that there is fear behind it. And us, me, you, Chris, you, Matt, when we go to church, these are things that we don't worry about. We don't have to worry about because we're so comfortable.
No one should have to worry about it.
Yeah, but we remember what was happening after 2000. We're all old enough. We remember what was happening after 9/11. How some of our Arab-looking friends were being stopped more than us. I remember I had a friend that was Italian, but he looked Arab, and he had his tires slashed coming from Canada to the U.S. And these are things that, although we're trying to, quote unquote, do the right things, we're stomping on the people that are innocent, and we got to be very careful of that. And we got to be very careful of how we proceed in these areas. I think we can say kind of something we alluded to earlier, is that it's already been happening. So we shouldn't be like afraid that it's gonna happen, because it's already been happening. Now, will it happen at the mass scale that we think? I don't know. You know, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell you what's happening, and people are acting and people are being afraid. And the articles that I've been reading, it's talking about Trump is targeting liberal synagogues. Liberal synagogues and all the mosques, you know, all mosques.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And that's quite comical to me, because I mean, it's not funny, but it's something.
It's the farce that is this administration. It seems like, what depravity can this administration get into? What moral hazard can this administration dig into and commit? I mean, churches are places of sanctuary. You should never have any sort of enforcement going into a church except at the request of the congregation and the pastor, because that is a safe place. You know, it needs to be a safe place.
It's the very thing that they, bitched about during COVID, was the government encroaching on the worship place. So
you're right in a lot of aspects of it. Here's the dangers of all this, though. When Trump or his administration, or even in the past administrations, right, when they allow the normalization of liberal synagogues, all mosques, Spanish-speaking Christian churches to be targeted, the next administration, or the administration after that, whatever, that is on the opposite side of the spectrum, they'll normalize the fact that, hey, let's attack these conservative synagogues. Let's attack these conservative churches. That's what, and guess what? Who's the target of it all?
What are they targeting the synagogues and the mosques for? Because there's not Hispanics in there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, yeah,
you don't have to be guilty. You just have to be detained, Matt. All it takes is the detention to.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is that what they're doing? Is going in and detaining people?
Yeah,
is that
yes.
Okay?
Yes, that is what they're doing. Yeah. So I mean, and honestly, this normalizes detention of Americans. It normalizes, I mean, how many more steps do we have to go until people get snatched and then disappeared? How many more steps is this?
Right.
Because that's terrifying.
And there could be some guy who just comes to power who hates religion. And he says, hey, well, Trump did this in 2005, 2006, and Biden did this in 2022. Why can't I do it? People on the right, when Biden was in office, they were complaining about the church. But a lot of people on the left, they loved it. And they said, hey, Biden's right. Now a lot of people on the right are saying the exact same thing. And all the people on the left, well, they probably don't even care about the religious church on the far left, right? Not just the left, but the far left, whatever. But it's starting to become more justified in their actions and stuff. And a lot of people, even like when you're going into synagogues and when you're going into mosque as a Christian, a lot of Christians are like, well, that's happening to them. It's not happening to me, whatever. But that's kind of dangerous thinking.
With that, the holidays are coming up, and I think that it would be appropriate for us to give our thanks, not just to our viewers and listeners, but to everyone. So if you guys wouldn't mind to bow your heads, and we will say a little prayer, All right. Oh Lord, please look after everyone this holiday season. Make sure that their travels are safe, that they remain protected. Also, may we all come together in brotherness and friendship, and may we be united in purpose and thanksgiving for all the things that we have been blessed with throughout the year. Amen.
Amen.
And with that, guys, I hope we've given you all some wonderful topics to discuss for Thanksgiving dinner today. Hopefully, none of these get you kicked out of your family. But if they do, we're your family. We're here for you. And with that, what we are most thankful for is for listening to us, being with us, subscribing, liking. We are thankful even more for that. But more importantly, thank you all just in general. We've been having a great time with you. And this has been the We Have Issues podcast. And I'm Chris.
I'm Carvel.
And I'm Matt.
Thank you all. Have a good one.